Today I want to talk to you about properties of real numbers. And before we talk about properties, one of the things we need to talk about is equivalent expressions. The properties allow you to write these equivalent expressions and equations so that you can solve them. An equivalent expression is simply an expressions that are equal. The left side of the equal sign is equal to the right side of the equal sign. Now, we're going to be doing some deductive reasoning, and what that is a process of reasoning logically from given facts to a conclusion. So it's when you say, well, I've got these two numbers, and when I do this to them, this third part always happens every single time. When you're doing that, that's called deductive reasoning. If A and B equals C every single time, you've come to a conclusion. That's deductive reasoning. A counterexample, however, is an example that shows a statement is not true. And the only way that you can show that an example is not true is by proving it. Okay? Now, for the properties. The first one is the commutative property, and this states that changing the order does not change the outcome, the answer. So if I have A plus B equals B plus A, or A times B equals B times A, I'm going to get the same answer. So for example, 3 plus 4, 4 plus 3, doesn't matter which way you have them, which way you switch them, they're both going to be 7. Same with 5 times 2, 2 times 5, it's going to be 10 no matter what. That's the commutative property. The associative property says that changing the grouping does not change the outcome, the answer. So for example, A plus B first, then plus C, is the same exact thing as A plus first, B plus C. Alright, now I want you to pay close attention to this. If you look at the first example, it's all addition. If you look at the second example, it's all multiplication. That's the only way the associative property works. It does not work with subtraction. It does not work with division. It doesn't work with mixed adding and subtracting, mixed adding and multiplication. It only works with the same addition throughout or the same multiplication throughout. So for example, 1 plus 2 plus 3 is the same as 1 plus 2 plus 3. Doesn't matter where you're grouping symbols, you're going to get 6. Now the identity property. That says that a number that's added to 0 or multiplied by 1, the answer is going to be the same as the original number. So examples are easy here. If you have a number and you add it to 0, nothing happens, nothing changes. You still have that same number. It kept its identity. Same if multiplying it by 1. You multiply it by 1 and it keeps its identity. So for example, 8 plus 0 is 8, 14 times 1 is 14. You've kept your identity. The zero property of multiplication. This states that the product of any number and 0 is always going to be 0. Alright? You have a number, you multiply it by 0, it's going to be 0. It doesn't matter what the number is, it can be 1,000,002, multiply it by 0, you're going to get 0. Now, the multiplicative property of -1. This states that the product of any number and -1 is always the opposite of that number. So -1 times A is going to give you -A, or the opposite of A. So for example, -1 times 9 is going to be -9. Now, I also want you to look at this. If you have -1 times -7, you're going to get the opposite of -7. The opposite of -7 is +7. We will work with this tomorrow in class. See you then.